Okay, guys, right on to video number 4, and today's topic is intrinsic versus extrinsic value. And this will bring the more theoretical portion of the course almost to a close before we move on to the more practical applications that I think you guys will enjoy much more. But it's necessary that we hammer home this theory so you guys have a good foundation when you're out in the market. So I think it's helpful here to review and keep hammering home this analogy before we segue into today's topic. So let's recall. We had this piece of paper that we thought of as an option contract, and the value of this piece of paper is tethered to a stock. So we could go out into the market, we could buy this piece of paper, and depending on how the stock that it's tethered to moves up or down, the value of this piece of paper changes, and we could either sell it for more or it could decrease in value and we could sell it for less and take a loss. So let's go over the two scenarios. Let's say we have the piece of paper on the stock. If the stock price increases, if that piece of paper then is a call option contract, the value of it will increase. In the case of a put, the value will decrease if the stock price increases. On the second hand here, we have the situation where the stock price decreases. If the stock price decreases, the call option value will decrease and the put option value will increase. Remember, with a put, we make money when the stock price goes down. So recall, we can buy a call or a put contract and resell it for more if the stock price moves in our favor, depending on if it's a call or put. So in order to buy the call or put, remember, in this case, the piece of paper, in order to buy the call or put, we have to pay a premium. So what actually goes into the pricing of the premium, and how does our piece of paper increase or decrease in value? And this introduces the topic of intrinsic versus extrinsic value. So we have a nice formula here that should be very easy for you guys to see. There's a lot of notes, but I promise once I get through them all, it'll all make sense. So our option premium is equal to the intrinsic value plus the extrinsic value. Now, note I have these color-coded, but the red and green do not mean anything specific about positive or negative. They're just used to differentiate here. So we have intrinsic value plus extrinsic value equals the option premium. And just like your math class, you can manipulate this equation any way you want. So let's just say you wanted to solve for extrinsic value. You subtract intrinsic value from both sides and you get extrinsic value equals option premium minus intrinsic value. But let's just go over what each means first before doing anything like that. So let's first cover intrinsic value. So intrinsic value is equal to the real value at expiration. Now, it's important here not to get lost in the terms and just focus on kind of what's important. So let's say we have a call option. Call options have real value when the stock price is greater than the call option strike price at expiration. So let's really think about this. Let's say we have the 95 call option contract, and at expiration, the stock is at $100. So right here, if we were to exercise, so we own the 95 call option contract, if we were to exercise this contract and we took assignment at the 95 strike price at expiration, now we own 100 shares at $95 each. But in the market, the stock is at 100. So right then and there, we can turn and sell these shares for 100 and make $5 per share because we own them at 95. So the intrinsic value in this case can be calculated by taking the stock price, which is right here. So stock price of 100 minus the call option strike price. So this is here our strike price of 95. That's $5 of intrinsic value because remember, if we were to exercise our right here, we'd buy 100 shares at 95 and then we can immediately flip them for 100, which indicates here our $5 in intrinsic value. So what about a put option? So put options have real value when the stock price is below the put option strike. Remember, we make money with a put when the stock price decreases. So in this case, you could see here our strike price is actually above the stock price at expiration. So the same equation applies here. The difference between the strike price and the stock price at expiration would indicate our intrinsic value. So in this case, we have $5 in intrinsic value. And the actual interworkings of how this actually works with selling shares and then buying them back at a lower price involves shorting stock, and I don't cover it in this course because little of this ends up actually applying because we're never actually taking assignment of shares. But it's important to understand when you're looking at a premium and determining what pricing mechanisms are making it up. So next, we have extrinsic value. So extrinsic value is determined by two things. Number one, the time till expiration, and two, the implied volatility. Now, that sounds like a scary word. It's really not. For now, we can just think of this as the market's guess of where the stock may go. So just think about it logically here. We have the word implied and the word volatility. So you think of the word implied, you kind of think like, well, I think this is going to happen because of this. And you think of the word volatility like it could go way up, it could go way down. So just think of it as the market's guess of where the stock could go. So number one, and this is it under the extrinsic value category, we have the time till expiration. The more time till expiration, the more extrinsic value an option contract will have. So think about it. There's more time for a move to occur if there's more time till expiration. So let's just say a stock is trading at 100 and you think it's going to, you buy the 105 call option contract. So $5 above where the stock is currently trading at. Well, the more time there is for the stock to get to 105, the more extrinsic value it's going to have. So next we have implied volatility, and we just covered this. We can think of implied volatility as the market's guess of where the stock's going to go. So the bigger chance of a big move, the more extrinsic value. So let's just think about this like an earnings play. You might have heard people talk about playing earnings of a stock. A lot of times when a company has earnings, there's a lot of speculation about what could happen. Think about some of the earnings calls you've seen and the stock jumps $10, $20 in one night. This all relates to implied volatility. So if there's an earnings call coming up, there's a bigger chance that there could be a big move in either direction, so there's more extrinsic value. So let's go into what is actually used to calculate the option premium. And remember, we just add the intrinsic plus extrinsic value. So let's actually do an example where you own a contract or you buy a contract. So Apple right now, let's just say it's trading at 125. So what do? You think, in this case, you think the stock price is going to increase. So you buy the 123 call for $2.75. So remember, this would just be $2.75, but really it's $2.75 because times 100, which is the multiplier. So you buy the 123 call option on Apple for $275. So this is our option premium, purple. Now we can see, what is this actually made up of? Well, we have $2 in intrinsic value, and since the total is $275 and we know it's $2 in intrinsic value, that means we can, deduce or imply or whatever that the extrinsic value then is 0.75. So think about this. Apple's at 125, you buy the 123 call. So already the strike that you chose is below the stock price right now. So it already has intrinsic value. And we can calculate this by taking the stock price minus the strike price. So stock price minus the strike price, $2. Now, we know that the total cost of the contract is $275, so that means our extrinsic value then must be 0.75. And that 0.75, what is that made up of? Well, it's made up of the value that's derived from the time till expiration and the implied volatility, or market sentiment. So let's think of a second example. Apple's at 125, and now you think the stock price is going to go down. So now what? You buy the 127 put option. So, and for buying this 127 put option, you pay a $3 debit. So remember, this is really just 300 because the option contract multiplier. So you buy the 127 put option for $3. Now, it works the same for the put option. We have intrinsic plus extrinsic. So the difference between the stock price, which is, in this case, 125, and the strike price you chose on your put option, 127, is $2. So right here, there's your intrinsic value. Now, you know, because you could see it on your broker, wherever you're purchasing this on the market, you see that the premium that you need to pay for this contract is $300. And you know, because you took the difference between the stock price and the strike price, you know the intrinsic value is $2. So what does this mean? Well, if you know that it needs to total 3, you know the intrinsic value is 2. That means the extrinsic value is 1, or $100. And again, how do we what's this $100 made up of? It's made up of the guess as to where the stock could move, the amount of time till expiration, etc. So hopefully that covers